Hi everyone, I'm Zach Reinhardt, here to review the new Limited Express Has Gone record, All Ages. Now, to talk about this record and to talk about Limited Express Has Gone, I need to first talk a little bit about Japanese punk, specifically Kansai punk. Now, Japan's punk scene is, for me, one of the most compelling reasons to be into Japanese music. And it has been for the past 20 years. The punk and post punk that comes out of Japan is dizzying, it's angular, it's full of energy, and it's just something you don't hear coming out of any other place in the world. As far as I'm concerned, if you're into punk music and just loud, aggressive, in your face stuff, and you like to have fun, I think you need to be paying attention to what's coming out and has been coming out of Japan. Bands like The Mornings, bands like Hyaka, bands like The Boredoms, bands like Panic Smile, bands like Afri Rampo, bands like Otoboke Beaver, and of course, bands like Limited Express Has Gone. Now, Limited Express Has Gone has been around since the 90s. This is their fifth record, and they've been putting out really kind of strange, experimental punk music ever since their beginning. And it's always been great. There's really not a bad record in Limited Express Has Gone's discography. And in my opinion, they're a band that's gotten better with time. I really liked their last record that came out a few years ago. And I gotta say, I love this record too. I think this might be just one of their best records to date. Now, this album kicks off with the track No Mean, which starts out with an incredibly busy and dense groove from the drums and bass, which is surprisingly just really tight and in the pocket for how just busy it is. Yukari comes in with this calm, spoken vocal delivery that shows a lot of restraint compared to her typical unhinged yelping that she does. And really, the whole track kind of has this sizzling energy to it that feels like it's being restrained, like some sort of rabid beast in a cage waiting to be let out. And when the guitars come in, the song gets heavier and a little bit slower, but it doesn't lose any of that restrained energy. And it finally all gets released when the drums and bass switch to this kind of jerky groove, and the guitar and the saxophone just go fucking nuts. They kind of tease you for the whole song, just waiting for this moment where you can just release all of your adrenaline and just flail about uncontrollably or something. But they only give you a few short seconds of release before they switch back in to the groove that started the song off to end it as well. I come out of this track feeling anxious almost, with all this kind of energy built up that they didn't really let me release. And on the next track, Motherfucker, they tease you just a little bit more in the intro with a kind of slow start before finally letting full force the just cluttered chaos that is Limited Express Has Gone just let loose on the track. The saxophone is going nuts. You're getting growls and squeals and multiphonics. It really sounds less like an instrument and more like some sort of deranged animal. The drums are intense and busy, and the rest of the instrumentation is almost hard to parse with just how dense and loud everything is. And Yukari finally shows up with her unhinged, kind of insane yelping that she does. And these two songs pair really well together as a great intro to this really short, fast-paced album. Needless to say, I think these tracks both are completely fucking awesome. Now, after giving a whole bunch of compliments at the beginning, I would normally shift into a complaint or two at this point, but there's really not anything to complain about. I guess this album is a little less kind of esoteric and strange and experimental as some of their previous works, but they replace that with just so much raw energy and just adrenaline pumping goodness that I find I don't really care. Like on the track Discommunication, which is one of the most intense tracks on this whole album. It's very short, and Limited Express has chosen to forgo any sort of subtlety or finesse with this song in exchange for just raw adrenaline pumping, fast paced aggression as much as they can fit in. The only thing you can really hear coherently is the drums pounding away and Yukari just screaming and yelling as loud as she can over top of the dense clutter of instruments that support her. And it's followed up by the song Gya Gya Sawage, which is another incredibly intense, fast-paced track, just pumped with energy, but it has a bit more of a structure to it. It gets a little bit of a groove to it and has some melodic elements, but is still just tons of noise and yelling and aggression. The saxophone, once again, just sounds insane on this track. And like it's just so dense and cluttered that I find it hard to describe it to you in any sort of meaningful way. But these two tracks build off of each other and really work well when they contrast with the track that follows them, Meteo Daydream, which was released as a single prior to this and a music video and all that. This song slows down and chills out a little bit when compared with the tracks before it, and opts for a more melodic approach. It has a really busy groove and some disjointed guitar riffs that are played with a really kind of brittle, distorted sound. But when the guitar changes into a kind of slow, tremolo-picked melody and the rhythm section changes to follow it, the song is so organized and melodic compared to the two tracks before it that it comes off as an almost epic moment. And that epicness is brought even more into focus when the whole band starts singing in unison with the guitar line. And it's clumsy and it's kind of off tune at times, but when you compare it to the just chaos of the two tracks that precede it, it carries this kind of epic quality to it that it would take a whole symphony to conjure up on any other album. Needless to say, I think these tracks are fucking awesome. The songs Looking for Inspiration and Goodnight Kids are probably the most accessible and melodic tracks that take a much more kind of new wavy approach to the Limited Express Has Gone sound. Yukari's vocals are a lot more melodic on here, and actually on Looking for Inspiration, I think she sings one of the catchiest melodies I've probably ever heard her sing. The band on these tracks play with pop sensibilities like a pack of wolves playing with their prey. The songs are fun and danceable and kind of catchy, but they still carry this kind of animalistic energy to them that really keeps them from being anything you might consider pop. Needless to say, I think these tracks are fucking awesome. And then the album closes out with the 11th track, Industria. This track is Limited Express Has Gone at their peak. It is chaotic, it is tense, it is cluttered and loud and fast-paced and aggressive, but it's also proud and it's very tight. And there's something kind of really charming about the way that on this track they march out each of their instruments one at a time to do a short solo for you, kind of showing off how proud they are of what they've accomplished here. And they really should be, because this track is awesome, and this whole album is awesome. This album is only like 27 minutes, And despite that, I come off of it exhausted and exhilarated every time I listen to it. It was getting so late in the year that I was almost afraid I wouldn't be able to give out this score. But I'm feeling a 10 out of 10 on this record. It is awesome. It is just exhilarating the whole time. And I really love just everything about it. I have no complaints. And I think it might be Limited Express Has Gone's best work so far. They are still going at it, and they are still making some really incredible music. I highly, 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 highly recommend you check this record out. And if you like what you're hearing here, check out the rest of this band's discography and check out some of those other bands I mentioned earlier. But that's me. New Limited Express Has Gone record. It's called All Ages, and it's fucking awesome for people of all ages. Check it out. Peace.